Today we are gonna talk about everything that I learned while working as a busboy for 2 days when I was 12 years old before I quit the job, because it was horrible. Listen and watch and learn why. I think I might be in one of those magical, beautiful places on the entire planet. I am in Niterói, which is a subset of Rio, Brazil. Right there is an Oscar Niemeyer architecture. It's a museum created by the famous architect Oscar Niemeyer. If you are from South America, you know exactly who he is. If you're not, well, he's a legend. I don't know what to tell you. He makes incredible architecture, or he made, past tense, but basically it looked like stuff that they thought the future would be in 1960s. So today we're gonna talk about what I learned as a 12-year-old busboy for 2 days before quitting that miserable job. It was the worst job I've ever had in my life. Number one, always work with ethical people. These people were anything but ethical. In fact, you know what they had me do? They used to have these little trays of cream cheese that they put on the tray on the table, and they would literally, if someone didn't finish the cream cheese on the table, they'd have me take it to the back and refill the same tray without cleaning it, not to waste the little bit of leftover that's been eaten from. It's disgusting, nasty. They had incredibly low standards of cleanliness in that joint. It was disgusting. What is the significance of that? Number one, top-down leadership. They could care less about anyone else. They really don't care. They didn't care about anyone else. They didn't care about sanitary standards or bacteria or any of this stuff. And what happened is you end up with a mutiny situation. See, I was a busboy, the bottom of the barrel, but there was also waiters and other teenagers who were working there. Okay, I was 12, and all of us knew how nasty and filthy everything was. So we used to clean everything before we would eat it ourselves, because we'd get like free lunch. We would, one of the waiters showed me how to use the cappuccino maker steamer to disinfect all the forks and knives and everything I would eat with before eating it. But meantime, they're serving it to people like this. It's really messed up. Top-down leadership. You gotta have good ethics from the top down. That's really important. Also, when you work with people who are completely unethical, and I'm talking about they used to take the dirty cloth napkins off the table and have us dry the dishes with the dirty napkins that people wipe their mouth with. It was filthy. Okay, people like that cannot be trusted. When I quit after day 2, they didn't give me my tips. I kid you not. Now, mind you, I know I earned tips because my pediatrician randomly showed up at that restaurant. It was a complete coincidence, and he told me later on he left me a big tip, which I didn't get. So I even know I got a big tip that they screwed me out of. Now, can you imagine screwing a 12-year-old kid out of their tip? Like, think about that. Next thing to learn, okay, from this experience, always negotiate prices up front before service is delivered. I made the extremely naive mistake of of asking them how much I get paid, and they said, well, work a little bit and we'll tell you what it's worth to us. Ouch. You know what it was worth to them? $2 an hour. Forget minimum wage! That's not even minimum wage in a third world country. $2 an hour. I'm in New York City, man. I know it was like a job for a 12-year-old, but still, $2? That was a bummer. And I didn't find that out until after the work was done. So basically, I quit after 2 days and made like, I don't know, what does that work out to be? Like 30, 40 bucks or something. It was like really, really bad. That job absolutely stunk, but I learned a lot. Now, looking back with adult eyes, I could have easily identified that I was gonna get this miserable $2 an hour salary or something equivalently pathetic. The way I could have done that was as soon as they told me that I should reuse the people's dirty cloth napkins off the table to dry the supposedly clean forks and knives and plates, you can right away know that these people aren't gonna give you more than they have to. They're gonna give you the absolute lowest amount of money that they can to make you stay, not a penny more, okay? So once you identify that, that's lousy to work for. It's okay for people to be frugal, that's totally okay, but miserly is not okay. Never work for the miser. It's okay. Working for the frugal person, totally cool. I got a lot of respect for people who are careful with their money. But careful with their money doesn't mean being a jerk and paying a 12-year-old $2 an hour, then screwing them out of their tips and wiping down people's plates that they're about to eat with someone's dirty napkins that's bacteria laden. Okay, I mean, this was pre-COVID, but still, come on, it's disgusting, you know? All right. The other thing is never work for people who you don't feel are ethical. If those people don't live up to your ethical standards, don't work for them. Because one of the things they made me do, now mind you, I say they made me do because at 12 years old, I didn't have enough backbone to stand up and say, no, hell no, I ain't doing that. But I should have, and I regret not doing that. But at 12, it's reasonable not to have that backbone yet. Today, I would be like, hell no, listen to what they did. They had only regular coffee. They had no decaf in this crappy joint. They did not have decaf coffee, but they wanted to sell decaf coffee. So they told me when people ordered decaf, listen. When they ordered decaf, tell the person, okay, you're getting decaf, you're getting regular. And then when you deliver the coffee, they only had regular coffee, but I would put one cup down in front of the person and go, oh, here's your decaf and here's your regular, just to make sure that they believe that they're actually getting decaf coffee, but nobody got decaf. There was only regular full caffeine. And if somebody had some form of allergic reaction to caffeine, which I don't know if that even exists for real, or if that's hypochondria or whatever, they were screwed because everybody got caffeinated coffee in that joint. Now, I really didn't feel good about giving my pediatrician, who ordered decaf coffee, regular coffee, and saying it's decaf. That sucked, okay? And right then and there, I felt like it was my ethical standards were being pressed. However, I was 12 and I was too young to stand up for my point, you know? Today, I'd never do that. I'd say, hell no. All right, anyway, the point is never work for someone you don't believe in their ethics. If you think they're unethical, do not work for them. Straight up, go find somebody else to work for. Or work for them only on your own terms, but I can pretty much assure you that won't last long. So, all right, on those fine words from this incredibly fine place with beaches and museums with incredible Oscar Niemeyer architecture and oh my God, Rio, Brazil, you guys gotta come out here. This is amazing. There's like an island behind me and a small island right there. It's pretty hard to beat this joint. All right, come on out here, Rio, Brazil. I'll see you in the next video. Hello. I'll see you in the next video. Like, share, subscribe, and always learn from every experience in life. You know, even at 12 years old, a lousy busboy job, a lot to learn from there. Think about that, think about it. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Yeah!
Do you know if the airbag in your car even works? Think about what moment you'd find out it doesn't work if it doesn't. I am in the absolutely beautiful and breathtaking Great Neck Estates in Long Island, New York. This place is literally like a paradise. I mean, it's out of this world. Behind me is that beautiful mansion. On this side is the beach. It's pretty hard to beat this. Now, in this incredible environment, I want to bring up a topic that is completely counterintuitive. See, most people talk about the power of positive speech and positive thought. Today, we're going to talk about the power of negative thought, because frankly, it's just more interesting. Now, to be more concise, we're going to talk about contingency planning, planning for the worst case scenario, even when you can't always predict what that's going to be. Life is unpredictable. Some things you'll never really know how to predict. For a random example, do you know if the airbag in your car even works? Think about what moment you'd find out it doesn't work if it doesn't. Can't really predict that. But what you could do is have contingency plans. Put your seatbelt on just in case the airbag does not go off when you expect it to. So there are things you can do even when things are completely uncertain. You're not completely out of luck even when you can't plan for everything. So another random example. A couple nights ago, my friend, he runs a computer repair shop. His store got looted. Place was trashed. He's got insurance. All the computers are gone, but you know, he's got insurance, he'll pay for that, but think about the customers. They brought him computers to repair with data on them. That data's gone. None of their customers are getting that computer back. So while his hardware is covered by insurance, will any of those people bring him another computer in the future? He may have lost all of his customers, even if the actual business expense wasn't that significant because of his insurance. There's lots of things you can't predict. But the idea is to try to have contingency plans and what if scenarios. Gotta think negatively. Crazy, right? All right, everyone talks about power of positive thought. We're gonna talk about power of negative thought. What can you do? Now, other scenarios that could happen. You're running a business. You have a series of employees. You have one employee who keeps telling you the whole time, I'm gonna get it done, I'm gonna get it done, I'm gonna get it done, but never actually gets it done. But you have project dependencies that rely on the work he does. Everything gets held up because this one employee. He's your weak link. Think about that. What contingency plan do you have to protect yourself in that scenario? Interesting, right? That's the kind of contingency plans people don't generally think about. What are the weak links? What are the parts of your business that can fail because of one single point of failure that you don't have a contingency plan on? It's important to have contingency plans on everything foreseeable. And for things that are not foreseeable, you have to know what could you do. So if you're running, like, let's say, a computer-based business that has internet servers, when servers go down, what's your plan B? The simplest plan is to have a cloud backup that's always available. Very simple, not even expensive today. The more advanced option, which is very costly, is to run what's called a hot standby. Hot standby means you literally duplicate all your servers twice. And if one set goes down, you fire up the next set on that moment. Now that's really an expensive proposition. It's something that was done back in the day of computers. Today with cloud storage and cloud servers and stuff, that's probably not the best solution economically. It's definitely the best in terms of contingency plans though. But that's a different story. Holy cow, it is hot. Oh my God, I'm sweating away, but it's this beautiful day here. And let's talk about other problems that could come up, okay? You have a supply chain, you have suppliers. What happens if your suppliers end up going out of business or having a legal problem that they can't supply you that day? What else can you do? It's so important that you have an alternative plan because otherwise you are going to go under. So many businesses economically are about to lose their entire business right now in society because they've been closed for several months due to the pandemic. And then on top of it, their stores are looted. It's like insult to injury for these places. And there's going to be dozens of places going out of business now. On the opposite side of the equation, the opposite side of the equation, people are losing their houses to foreclosure coming up. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to buy things for cheap that you couldn't buy before. The whole economy has been turned on its head. What contingency plans could you have done if you knew this was going to happen in advance? Or not new, but if you could have predicted the possibility, what could you do? It's important to think like that when you run a business because otherwise you're kind of a sitting duck for anything that may happen and you're kind of going on faith that things won't happen. But the thing is, in society, you never really know. Can't tell. No one predicted this, I don't think. So in that respect, it's important that you always have your plan Bs, your contingency plans. Think through what is the worst case scenario of every aspect in the chain of your business that is mission critical, and make sure there's a redundancy to it, or at least a plan B, a contingency plan, if not a redundancy. Helicopters, they operate in a way mechanically that there's a redundancy on almost everything. One thing fails, there's a way to switch it over to the next, because if you don't, when you fall out of the sky, very important to have redundancy. Treat your business like that. It's important. If you want to have a business that doesn't fall out of the sky, think about that. People don't treat their businesses like it's so critically important. Usually for good reason, though. Usually it's because you're just preoccupied with other things that are urgent, and that makes sense. But you're going off faith if you don't do these things. Contingency planning is critical. What can you do to protect yourself from things that may fail? What can fail? Start by identifying what it is that can fail. Human beings are totally fallible. That's the part that probably fails the most often, and people don't typically have that contingency plan. let's say you have an employee who either quits, stops working to their productivity, which is sometimes worse than quitting because they're kind of dead weight and they're not in a position you're going to replace them because they're still there, but they're not performing. Sometimes it could be a woman gets pregnant, goes on maternity leave. Suddenly, she didn't tell you she was going to do that in advance. You weren't ready for that. Now you got to replace her, at least temporarily. It's hard. Human beings are fallible. It's very important that you have backup plans. What happens if someone doesn't come to work that next day? Now, because of the whole pandemic situation, people are working remote now, and that's changing the way that a lot of people think about things. So for a random significant example of how you can have a contingency plan in the case of, let's say, maternity leave is a good one, you can have people who work remotely online on a contractual basis. You train them in advance, and you only pay them when you use them. And that way, if they're needed in a full-time manner, you could bring them on, they're ready, and they're trained, and they're gone. And because it's remote, it doesn't really have a big overhead in getting them on your team and ready to go. Now, there is also the liability of doing this in the fact that they may not be available when you need them because it's a remote job and there's less commitment. It's kind of a give and a take. But either way, there are things you can do. You have to have contingency on employees. Now, ask yourself if there's any employee at your company, if they stop performing or leave, does your company go down? Very deep thought right there. Sometimes it's a founder. Sometimes that's important to realize. If your founder's going to leave, what are you going to do? And everyone's immediate response to that is, oh, he's never going to leave. Nonsense. You never know in life, okay? Something can happen that is totally out of the expected. There are people right now who got corona and aren't alive anymore, and no one expected that to happen. So you never know, you know? I mean, that's a dramatic example, but it's real. You never know. Someone who could be completely dedicated to the job may have some serious life situation and have to pick up and go fly to the other side of the world because something happened to a relative there. You don't know. Don't let all your eggs be in one basket. In fact, every aspect of your business, count the baskets you have the eggs in. Make sure your eggs are in at least 2 baskets at every chain. Figure out if each aspect fails, what is the likelihood of the failure, and if it does fail, what are you going to do about it? Oh, that's nice. She's graduated. If things fail, what are you going to do about it? Because things will fail. It's just a matter of how severe and how frequent and what it is that's actually going to fail and what's the likelihood. I don't think getting your store looted in New York City was a likelihood anybody planned for at all. However, the day or two before it happened, everyone started planning for it and boarding up the store. And you know what? He didn't get there that quick. His store wasn't boarded up. And that was the problem. See, it's a matter of being on top of what could happen all the time and planning as much as you can. And then when it does happen, because you didn't succeed to plan for that incredible scenario, make sure you have contingency plans. In his case, that was an insurance policy. The insurance policy protects him from any form of paying for those computers that were stolen and robbed from his store blatantly. But it doesn't protect him from all the loss of business. He may be going out of business after this. I don't know. I didn't talk to him about it in that respect. But he may not have business. Who's going to bring a computer to him again? All their data is gone. Yes, people definitely understand the situation. That there's no question. But in reality, if all of your life moments and photographs and records were on that computer and you didn't have a backup, and now it's gone, you're probably not going to bring your next computer to the same guy, even if nothing more than superstition. It may not be logical. Logically, he didn't do anything wrong, and every store down his block was looted. But still, inside you, your gut's going to say, I'm not bringing anything back to him again. I don't have it anymore because of that. Yeah, he gave me the money for the cost of the computer because it came from his insurance policy, but that doesn't replace memories and things and data on there and personal finance records or whatever else they have. God knows, you know, people have their businesses on there, and then you have important data that could be used for identity theft on there. You know, it's a big deal when someone's computer gets stolen. Nonetheless, an entire store full of computers that were stolen. People's computers. Not new ones, I'm talking about people's that they brought in for repair. That's a big deal. So keep in mind, how big of a problem could you have in every scenario? Most businesses have scenarios that could put them out just like that. Nothing to it. Important that you plan for that and you make sure whatever happens, You know what you're going to do in that scenario. Now, it's okay to have certain scenarios that you accept. If this happens, we're done. We're toast. That's okay. That's calculated risk. You can't survive everything. Okay. Sears, I think, most of their stores went out of business after 100 years. There's plenty of places like that. Oh, Gimbals, they were around for 80 years. They went out of the business. Lots of companies go out of business after being around for a while. It's okay to have scenarios that are going to put you out, as long as you know how you're going to handle that. It's acceptable levels of risk. Can't plan for everything, can't fix everything. Some things are just too big, and it's just, that's it. It's time to call it quits. In fact, you should know your threshold of what it takes to put you out. So you're not questioning, is it worth continuing at that point? You should know, if it goes past this exact point, that is the point we're going to close doors and we're going to give up. Because if you don't, you dig yourself deeper in terms of like debt and invested effort. There's that point you have to say, this is it. Can't do more than that. We're done. We're toast. And here's the actions we're going to take to limit the damage, to do damage control. Could be filing Chapter 11. Could be finding ways to repair any damages done to your clients. Could be anything. Could be just PR. Whatever it is for your business. Make sure you know when it is you're going to call it quits, and don't even think of saying I'm never giving up, because there's always something that's going to make you give up. So you want to know what it is, so it's intelligent. That decision is an intelligent one, not a reactive one. On those extremely negative words from this incredibly positive, beautiful place on this perfect day, Great Neck, Long Island, New York, I wish you all the best. Please subscribe, like, share this video. Have a wonderful, blessed day. I'll see you all in the next video.
Yeah!
Hello, I am in the absolutely glorious South Beach of Miami, Florida. It's legendary. It's also a little bit loud, so I'm gonna shout, probably throughout the entire video. But alright, so you can hear me. Alright, today we are in one of the least stressful places on the planet. I mean, it's a party town. Come on, who could be stressed out over here? So we're gonna talk about today how to manage your stress levels, because anybody in a leadership role is gonna have lots of stress. I mean, you got deadlines, you got big contractors who cause you to miss the deadlines, and all sorts of crazy stuff happens when you're in a leadership role. It's important that you can manage your stress at least effectively. If not, get rid of the stress. We're gonna talk about techniques for that. The first thing you gotta do to manage your stress levels is to be comfortable with whatever happens to you. In general, you gotta go with the flow of life. People who are very determined to have things go their way and get frustrated when they don't can't possibly manage the stress of a leadership role for very long. They will crack. It's inevitable. So the whole idea is to be comfortable with whatever happens, and sometimes that means you have a goal and some person comes along and moves your goalpost farther out. Just when you think you are about to achieve and complete, something gets in your way and ruins it for you or delays it. You gotta be comfortable with that and understand that everything in the world happens for the best. You gotta believe that. Not everybody does believe that, but it's an important factor for being okay with things that change. You have to also manage your expectations. What do you expect from your life, from your situation? Are you expecting everything to be done exactly as you choose it? I mean, there are people here in Miami, Florida with these huge 100+ foot yachts that are docked on the side of the water. Years ago, you could see the water from South Beach on the side right here. Unfortunately, they built up the grass and stuff, so you can no longer see it unless you walk out there. But there is a beach right there, I promise you. That's why it's called South Beach. So you got a lot of people with these big 100-foot+ yachts here in Miami and South Beach. Those people on those yachts, I guarantee you, don't expect everything to go their way, because if they do, even with all the money to buy a yacht like that, things are not always gonna happen the way they plan. They know it. You can't make that much money to buy one of those things if that's your expectations. Things do not happen to plan. Set your expectations that you aim for a goal, You hope you hit it, but you're okay if you don't. Simple as that. Be okay with whatever happens. Go with the flow of life. Human beings have a lot of disappointments in life. Sometimes it's business, sometimes it's personal. Human beings don't last forever. There are people that no matter how much money they have, cannot help having health problems or having family members pass away or loved ones pass away. No money in the world can solve some of that. Sure, medical attention gets better with money, that's true, but you still have the factor that no money in the world is gonna stop you from leaving this earth one day. Okay, no human being lasts forever. So, you gotta be comfortable with the changing of your goalposts, meaning if you think you're right about to get something and it doesn't happen, you got to be comfortable with that. Set your expectations to aim for success and be satisfied with whatever happens. Whatever happens, even if your whole business goes under, be ready to start again. Just say, oh, was not meant to be, move on, start again. Simple as that, all right? And if you can do that, you're gonna be a lot happier as a human being. The stress level goes down. Like, look, I'm making this video right now, there's a freaking siren behind me. You know how frustrating that is? Come on, it is what it is. I'm gonna have to pause this video until that noise goes away. Man, it is noisy in South Beach. All right, anyway, I was ready to cut the video short, and then I ended up having to wait for 6 other things that were making noise behind me. This is what it is. Life is full of challenges and disappointments. Right now, I'm shadows casting over me and messing up my video. It is what it is. You go with the flow of life. Take things easy. Don't stress out over little things. You know what? There's a saying, okay, don't make big things out of little things. It's all little things. That's the reality. So long as human beings are alive and healthy, those are the only big things, is when that doesn't happen, okay? Everything else is little things. Your car was stolen, little things. Your business just went under, little things, because you could start another one tomorrow, and you could buy another car sooner or later. I don't know if you can afford it right now, but sooner or later you will. As long as a human being has health, everything's okay. I mean, that's the reality. All right, now why do bad things happen to good people? That's a genuine question for satisfying, the stress level. Sometimes people do really good things in this world, and then terrible things happen. You have tragedies. How do you stay focused over that? Honestly, you have to have faith that everything happens for the better good. And sometimes you have to have faith that when it happens for the better good, it may not be clear why it's better good. You may have no idea. It may look terrible to you. You may not find out. And that's okay. You have to be content with not knowing. Not knowing why bad things happen is part of the play. Okay, you gotta be comfortable in life with things not happening your way and you don't know why. Sometimes it seems like a disaster, and later on you'll find out it was all for the best. But you may not find out, and you gotta be okay with that. Roll with the punches. If you're a person who believes in a higher being, a God, then you have to believe that everything is in God's hands and genuine trust in God. It's important. If you're an atheist, can't help you there. Believe that the world has been here for a gazillion years and it's gonna be for another gazillion. So I guess that's the atheist answer. It's very important to set your expectations appropriately, realistically. Some people say, I wanna be a gazillionaire, millionaire, billionaire, whatever it is. That's fine as a goal. It shouldn't be an expectation, because what you're gonna realize is you could do a lot without achieving that part. Okay, you might be able to live that way, have that lifestyle without needing the money. There might be alternatives in life. You have to be comfortable, go with the flow. You want a yacht, you want a boat, go buy an old boat. They're like 30 grand if you get them more than 15, 20 years old. Okay, for a big yacht. So it's not that out of range for a lot of people. Listen, everything can be obtained if you just have your plan and follow through, but you have to be comfortable with flexing that plan, going off the direction, changing direction. Okay, things don't work, you get lemons, and when you tried to grow oranges, you got lemons, make lemonade. Go with the flow of life. The less rigid a human being is, the happier you're gonna be. You're gonna find that life happiness increases with the flexibility that you put in. Meaning, when you're comfortable, whatever the heck happens in your life, good or bad, sometimes it's terrible. It's okay, it's normal and healthy to mourn or to feel sad for the moment, but you gotta accept it. Human beings have loved ones that they lost. If you're on this planet long enough, you're gonna lose someone you love. That's just the way it works, okay? It's horrible, it feels like unfair, but this is the way this world works, and you have to be able to accept that sooner or later. You don't have to do it right away. You can take your time, mourn, but you gotta get over these things and move on. In business, oh my God, I've been screwed over so many times, but I keep going and things succeed sooner or later. That's just the way it works. You have to be ready to take whatever comes to you, and go with the flow of it. And it's just, this is the way it is, man. The world's tough. It's not easy, you know? It's not supposed to be this hard, honestly. It ain't supposed to be this hard, but it is. This is what it is. It's hard. So be ready to do whatever comes your way. Okay, whatever it is, some opportunity comes your way, it seems like a good opportunity, take it. Don't be so rigid. Don't say it's beneath you, it's this, it's that. If that gets you closer to your goal, go with the flow. Okay, a lot of people, okay, use this advice in other ways. I've heard people say, you know, to set your expectations with parenting and you become a happier parent. Okay, when your kids don't live up to what you expected of them, then you know, just reset your expectations, you know? It's all a matter of, what do you really want out of life? What's your real goal, the long-term goal? Okay, money is an ends to a mean, it isn't your goal. Your goal, that's your short-term goal, okay? What are you buying with that money? Otherwise, it's just a paper asset. If it's fiat currency. I got a drone over my head. Check that out. Anyway, it's just a paper asset. It's just a means to an end when you get that. Hey, what's doing? That's her drone, apparently. So it's just a means to an end with the money, you know. That's not the end all. That's just how you get what you want. So what do you really want? Do you want to help people in this world? Do you want to live on your own terms and not answer to anybody? Different people have different things that drive them. It's important to figure out what drives you, follow your goals, and be ready to flex if needed. Anyway, signing off from the extraordinarily distracting and noisy, but otherwise utterly glorious South Beach in Miami, Florida. See you in the next video. Like, share, subscribe. Hopefully you are not too stressed out watching this, but chances are you might be, because most people are. So hopefully it helps you. If it doesn't, share it with anyone who you think it might help them. If you don't even think I'm right, share it anyway. Just share away, man. Go with the flow. See you all in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Yeah!
It is so cold out. It is ridiculous. Oh my God. Whoa, welcome to New York. This is my rented commercial space, as you see, in all its glory. Today we are going to discuss how to rent a commercial space. Not specifically how, but what you're supposed to look for when you rent a commercial space. The very first thing you should know with any space is who's your landlord. Because if you got someone good, and we do, in fact so good that he comes in here and even waters the plant for us, then everything gets a lot easier. If you have someone who doesn't want to work with you or is a stickler for rules and every little detail and every little thing that has to be to the book, it gets hard. You want a flexible landlord who's willing to work with you when things aren't always so easy. Okay, right now it's COVID time, people aren't paying their rent, and he knows that things are difficult, and he's working with us. And it's really, really, really good. This space is normally a huge classroom for youth who need help. And unfortunately with COVID, we can't do that anymore, so we converted it into a donation giveaway location, and all these suits are from Brooks Brothers, and we give them out to the youth. But in the meantime, this was a classroom, and I want to point out, what did it take to make this into a classroom here? It wasn't just bringing in all these desks and chairs, because when you have to, a lot more to it. First of all, the floor was raw concrete when we got here. We had to refinish this floor. Now, we just used a stain, which is the easy, inexpensive way to do that, but you could do a lot of finishes. The next door unit polished the concrete, which cost a fortune, and made it shiny. I can't really understand why, but they like that, whatever it is. Okay, when you come to a space, you also have to think about Entry exit. So we have a lot of youth going in and out of here. So we have the double doors. They both do open. And if you don't have a lot of people, it's not so important. But if you have a lot of people, more than we have, you also need a second exit or a means of egress, because that's a fire code thing. Right now we are doing fine with our fire code in this location, but a previous location we actually had to move out of because we had more students that could fit legally in the space enrolled in our program. So we exceeded the fire code. Well, we didn't exceed it, but we would have exceeded if we stayed there. And then we moved into here, which is a bigger space. Now, when we got here, this was a big room, empty. This room behind me that you see there wasn't there. We built that. Honestly, it was me and one other guy who built that in an afternoon. It wasn't that hard, actually. But the point is, you got to build these things, including putting up doors and framing and sheetrock and stuff like this. It's actually really easy if you're good at like DIY stuff. But that's one of the other things you got to think about when you move into a space. Do you need to install walls or tear them down? If you're not familiar with renting commercial spaces, tearing down walls is actually a very normal thing. Okay, now one of the other aspects that you have to think about is heating and air conditioning. This particular room has not one but two zones and double condensers outside. That's crazy. I mean, that is overkill for this room, and it's awesome because you have super heat, super air conditioning. You can see the vents right there over my head, some of the vents over there. So heating, air conditioning, not all places even come with it. You may have to install it yourself. That's very expensive if that happens. So keep that in mind. You want heating and air conditioning already there and sufficient for your capacity. We've had several previous spaces. This is not at all the first one. And one of the previous ones, they put in a 30,000 BTU air conditioning system, and it wasn't enough because the space was so large. So that's the thing. That sounds like, oh my God, it's so powerful, and it wasn't. And when you have a lot of human bodies in the room, that wasn't enough. So that's another thing to be aware of. Another thing is signage. Okay, what are you allowed to do in your internal space like this? You'd think you'd be allowed to do anything. You actually can't. When we first came in here, we stuck a big, huge TV screen in the window right over there facing the main street, and the neighbors complained when it was on at night. So we were able to keep it there for a while, and that TV actually stopped working, interestingly enough. I'm sure the neighbors were thrilled with that. But while it was working, we had to put on a timer because the neighbors complained at night from that building across the street that the light was keeping them awake at night. It was a really big 65 or 70-inch screen in that window. So that's another thing you have to be aware of. What signage are you allowed to do? Now, this is all inside the space. In this location, there's not really exterior wall space so much because it's all glass windows, but other places that you have that, are you allowed to drill into the concrete or the wall or the facade outside to put up your sign? That's a fair thing to wonder, you know? Can you make holes in the wall to install things? We don't have that problem here. We also don't have a lot of signage here, which is fine because we had a sign here. I actually removed it because I needed to use it for another project. I mean, that's all visible from the outdoors, and so is other ones here. So everything's internal. It's not really an issue, other than maybe the TV that we put in the front window. Now the windows, that's another aspect. First of all, if you got floor-to-ceiling windows like we do, you have no idea how expensive it can get to hire people to keep cleaning them with Windex, because you got to do both inside and out. You don't really need the inside frequently if you don't use it the way we are, but with students, they touch the glass and put fingerprints up. So if you don't have a lot of human beings in your space, you don't necessarily need to do both sides, but you definitely need the outside regularly, and it's a big expense. Another thing is, do your windows open. Now, we're on a ground floor here, so we don't obviously have them open, nor would we want to, because anyone could just sort of walk their way in if we do that. But if you have windows, you got to know if they open. Are you allowed to open them? I was once working as a consultant in someone else's office, and I opened the window, and they freaked out. They're like, no, the building doesn't allow it. I have no clue why any building wouldn't allow it, but that happens. So be aware that they may have regulations, and it usually comes from old windows in buildings that get new fire codes, and then for whatever reason they can't open the windows. Speaking of fire codes, do you have sprinkler systems? We do. It's pretty hard to identify the new kinds because they're almost invisible. It's those little discs up there on the wall, like they're this big. They're discs this big on the ceiling. Should there, God forbid, be a fire, they will pop down and sprinkle some rain on you and ruin everything inside, but put the fire out. So we have them here. Make sure you have fire sprinklers or something else to keep you to fire code. In buildings that are pre-World War II in New York City, that means a fire escape out your window. If you have that, You have to worry that someone can climb up your fire escape, and you have to take proper security measures, keep the door locked or whatever you got to do. That's another aspect. Now, windows, doors. Is the front door have a lock that you're satisfied with? Meaning, is your stuff secure inside the space with that lock? Are you able to change that lock without special permission from the building? And if you do change the lock, can you be the only ones with the keys, or do you have to give, are you obligated to give a copy of the keys to the super or the landlord? Now, in our situation, we like our landlord. We're very pleased with our working relationship with him. So there's no issue at all. We never change the locks. He still has the original keys, and we made copies for ourselves. Other places may not want the landlord going in and out. I could see that definitely happening in certain scenarios. So if you change the locks, are you allowed to do that without giving them access? That's another aspect. Next thing is restrooms, right? We got one huge one over there, and we used to have a second space 2 doors over from the same landlord, which we have let go, and he rented it to somebody else. I can't show it to you. It was literally just 2 doors over. We had both spaces, and we had a lot of capacity for youth in our program. And that space had an additional restroom. So by doing that, we doubled the capacity, the restroom capacity. We would send, you know, if someone's in here, we'd send the youth to the other class. It's only next door. It's about 30 feet over. So that's another aspect. Do you have enough restroom space? What kind of renovations do you need to do? In this space, the restroom didn't need anything. In our previous location, it was an empty room with a toilet and a sink. So we had to install the paper dispensers. We had to install a towel rack. We had to install something to hold the toilet paper. I don't know why it didn't have all these things, but you got to think about those stuff. Okay. Next thing is, what kind of consumables you're going to need just to open the doors. You need toilet paper in your bathroom. You need paper towels in your bathroom. You need soap. All these little stupid things. I know it sounds stupid, but when you come around to it, they add up to being really like a task in hand, like just garbage bags. And get them sized to the right garbage. And what pails do you need? Okay. Next thing is noise. I don't know if you noticed the truck that passed me behind. You hear everything outside, and these are big, thick glass windows. It's not the fault of the building. It's the fault of the location. We are in New York City. To be exact, it's Long Island City, Queens, right off the bridge to Manhattan. And right over there is an above-ground subway. There's a subway that runs out there. Now, we are far enough that we don't hear it. One of our prior locations, we actually had a different subway running out the window that you did hear. And it was disturbing in the class, but not terrible, but it's something to be aware of. You have these noise things. If you're shooting like a vlog, like I am right now, and you got a lot of noise, that's a problem. Got to be aware of that. Is there planned construction? They just completed a construction right here. Luckily, we didn't have class in session. If we did, it would be miserable. It was literally right out the window on those plates you see on the ground. They opened them up and were digging something in there. I don't know what they were doing, but it was literally right out the window. If we had class going, that would be really challenging to keep teaching over that noise. All right, another thing is electric. Are there enough plugs around the room? Now, by code, you're supposed to have a plug every 6 feet around every commercial space in New York City. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, codes, but if you don't, you gotta get an electrician to install them. That is expensive. Plus, you need to get the proper permits to do that, which is also expensive, at least in New York. So that's another thing, is do you have enough electric? How about your water? In the bathroom in this particular unit, there's no running hot water, there's only running cold water, and then there's an instant hot device that turns hot water immediately just for the sink. There's no other hot water in the unit. For us, that's totally fine, and it was here when we got here. Otherwise, you'd have to install that because nobody really wants ice cold water on their fingertips in the middle of a New York City winter. Other things you want to think about is if your space has a kitchenette, which our last one did. It was great. It was so convenient. We don't have that here. So instead we stick a little mini fridge and that's about all we get. But when we had the kitchenette, it was really good because our class times are like 5 hours long for the students. So it's a big deal for them. And the teachers are sometimes do double shifts, so it's 10 hours. So it's like a big deal to have a kitchenette. It's convenient, it's nice. When it comes time to move into your space, are there any restrictions or limitations? Now, we have the incredible convenience of having our own doors to go in and out. So, now I'm out and here it is and we move our stuff in. So it's not really a big deal for us. But if you have an elevator building, you might actually need to have more access during certain hours. They might limit you and tell you cannot move in during busy hours when people need to get in and out of the doors quickly. So that's important to realize. One of the other questions to ask is there a superintendent on site to fix things should they break? That's only important if you don't have the resource to do it. You may not really care, but if there's a water leak from an above unit, who do you call? Are they able to fix it, or do they have to call someone and then there's a delay? Now that delay, they might repair everything, but you might lose business during that time if you're closed because the water is coming down through your ceiling. I never had that in this location, but I did have that in another location. It wasn't a big leak, it was a very small leak just dripping, but it was a nuisance because we had computer equipment in that exact spot where it was dripping. We had to move everything and drag it out of the way, and they literally fixed it by the next day. But it's a nuisance. So you want to know if there's a superintendent who you can call to fix other things like that. Some of the other things you got to think about is just parking. Look outside. There are just constantly cars going back and forth here. This is New York City. There is a parking challenge here. There is a parking garage in this particular facility, which is a unique advantage, and it even has bicycle parking downstairs, locked, safe, secure storage for bicycles. That's a unique advantage of this location. Most of them don't have that in New York. Other places probably it's not even like an issue if you're in like the rural areas. Other aspects of noise is, do you have people outside who are going to come in and disturb you? People walking in from the street potentially who shouldn't really be in there, and you have to tell them to leave. Will you need a security guard if that's the case? It depends on your neighborhood. Other things are smells. Is there a place where odors come in? Like you right next door to a restaurant that cooks very strong foods? That could be. Another thing is insects. Mosquitoes was a challenge in actually our previous place. I don't know where they were coming from. We never quite figured it out, but we couldn't kill them all fast enough. Okay, I'm sure other insects are problems as well, as ants, cockroaches, whatever else you got. You got to be aware, is there a source of these insects that you can't do nothing about, like a restaurant nearby? Like I'm looking right now because that car's honking and stuff. It's noisy here. It's Long Island City, Queens, New York. It comes with the territory. There's no space in this area that isn't going to be noisy though. So that's just kind of something you sort of take it and you eat it. Another thing is storage space. Now we built that room and we had this storage closet here and another storage. So we have enough storage space here, but if your building if you have needs for more and your building has like storage space subterranean, like in the basement that you can use, that's always great. Another advantage if you need it. Speaking of subterranean, where is your commercial space located geographically in height? Not geographically, altitude wise. We are on the street level. This is considered as perfect as possible. You can't get better than street level for a commercial space. Sometimes people rent on the second floor. You could see right up there, they're renovating that second floor unit right across the street. There was a guy in there a few minutes ago. He's not there now. There's a guy in there a few minutes. I could see him from the window, literally renovating the space to prepare the second floor space. If you're on the second floor, everything that you bring in, you have to go upstairs with. Hopefully there's an elevator. If not, then you have a walk up, and it's even a bigger hassle. But even with an elevator, when you move in stuff, it's annoying. It's a lot easier just to go right through the front doors. Now, if you really are cash strapped, you can rent a subterranean location in a basement, and those things are dirt cheap because they usually have no windows. That's misery to work in, but it absolutely is the cheapest thing you could possibly get. Now, how about actually negotiating your landlord lease? First thing to know, which not everyone's gonna give you this information, when you rent a commercial space, did you know that they almost universally will give you a free month or two in the beginning to do renovations if you're signing a long-term contract? Believe it or not, free rent for the first month or two. That's completely normal, at least in New York. Almost everyone will do at least 1 or 2 months. You can sometimes negotiate longer if you want to do renovations, like building out walls and things like this. They know you need time and you can't make money during that time. You're, if anything, spending it on their space. That's totally normal to get free rent for the first 1 or 2 months of your lease period, okay? Or sometimes it's an extension and your lease period starts after the free time. Whatever it is, free time is totally normal. You also have to know any legalities. Are you allowed to use the space? Is it for what you're trying to do? Is it zoned legally for what you're doing? We have an attorney on our board. He checks all that stuff. I have no idea that part of the equation, but he checks that everything is legal, fire code capacity, all that stuff. But you have to check. Are you allowed to use the space as it's defined? Do you need any special licenses to operate? Do you need any insurances to operate? We got a whole portfolio of insurances because we're dealing with youth. So it is what it is. Not everyone needs that though. So basically, the other thing is, what else do you got to do? You have to sign the lease, obviously. You have to have an agreement with your landlord. He has to give you the keys. When do you get the keys? It should be upon signing and giving your deposit. That's a normal arrangement. But basically, you need to get the lease agreement and then get your keys so you have access. Once you have access, is the electric running? Or do you need to call the electric company to turn it on? That takes several days sometimes for them to come. So you may have no electric in the beginning. That's normal. That's pretty normal, actually. You also may not have internet for a while. Like it takes, depending on where you are, even here in New York City, it could take up to 2 weeks to get it installed, which is nuts. We are in the 21st century, but that is the reality of how these internet service providers work. Especially if they have to run their own fiber cable, which they did in this space. They had to go through the basement, run up a fiber cable and drilling through the concrete upwards. I mean, God knows I'm glad I ain't the person who had to install that. But basically, it takes time to get internet. You have to be aware of that. You may not have internet right away. For us, it was a big deal because we had students coming to actually start classes, and we had to make sure the internet worked. So that was a very, very big deal for us. Any other forms of things that you need to be there in time for when you start. Make sure you're aware of all the requirements in order for you to operate businesses. Okay, if you have a commerce business, you're gonna need some form of cash register and all these things. You gotta buy all that stuff, or at least figure out a way to procure it if you don't already have it. Some of the other things you have to realize are security. We have little tiny cameras installed. You could barely even see them. They're white on a white background. You almost don't notice they're there. We install our own security system. You may need to install one better than ours. I don't know, whatever works for you, but you need to have security in most places. Depends what you're doing. So that's another thing to understand. Also, is there any repairs that need to be done when you get here? So this particular space was totally fine, but our last one, we got there and there were holes in the wall from the previous tenant, literally holes. We had to get a guy to come and plaster them up. Crazy thing. Also, painting the walls is totally normal. In our case, in order to get the security system, we also had to run network cabling through the ceiling, which was a bit of an ordeal because these ceilings, I believe, are 12 or 15 feet high. They're super tall. Like, they're nowhere near reaching it. Like, we need a super tall ladder just to get up there. Luckily, lighting, that's another one. What kind of lighting do you have? Is the lighting sufficient? The lighting in here is off the hook. These are LED lights. They don't burn out and they like to join up. Hold on, let me just show you what this is. This is our storage room, so it's a little messy, but you could see when I like to join up, the whole place just lights up. And because they're LED, I can't really show you with the camera, because they're LED, they're instant on and instant off. So that's kind of a lousy demonstration, I realize. But instant on, instant off lights are actually very convenient. They don't flicker. If you use the old fluorescent ones, they start flickering, and then you have a job in the middle of your workday, they can start flickering, and you got to get on a ladder and start changing them. LED lights are incredible invention and are highly recommended for just the lack of maintenance. You don't need to touch them, they just work, and they instant on, they don't flicker, they don't give you problems. If you don't have that, and you have all these lights like we do across the whole ceiling, you're gonna find that you're gonna spend your time on ladders changing bulbs. It's a pain in the neck. Also, if you don't have enough light, you have to install more. That's another hassle to deal with. Now, another aspect is garbage, okay? What do you do with it when you're done? In a private residential complex, you typically throw it down a trash bin or put it in a designated spot. With commercial, you don't have that designated spot a lot of times, and you literally have to pay for trash pickup, and you coordinate it with a private company who comes and you put out the garbage on a specific day, and they come and you got to pay for that. You have to pay for the trash pickup. It's not automatic or free. Also, if you have a ground level space like we do, who is responsible for cleaning snow if you live in a place where you get snow like we do here in New York? If there is any other element on the sidewalk that you have to maintain, like garbage, like that people litter and stuff, is it up to you to maintain it? In our particular arrangement, we don't. We don't have anything to do with it. In other places, you have to do that. You have to be ready to have someone come and clean the sidewalk and shovel it if it snows, all that stuff. That's another headache that you have to maintain. In terms of noises, there's also another aspect, okay? If there's a machine out your window, like an air conditioning unit from a neighbor, you have no control over that, and you might suffer that noise endlessly, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's something to be aware of when you choose your rented space, okay? There's other things that you cannot always be aware of, but if you keep your eyes open, your ears peeled, you'll notice. If there's a school nearby, What time do they let out? Because when they do, there's gonna be a huge amount of kids going by your space and potentially making a whole ton of noise. So if we are teaching classes here, so noise is significant to us, that may not matter to you. We have a truck go by right this moment as I'm talking to you, okay? We feel the vibration in here. If you were doing some fine work with like jewelry, like very tiny jewelry, that vibration might be a problem. Be aware of your surroundings and what it takes. If you have a police precinct right next to you, then you're gonna hear sirens all the time, or a fire department, or a hospital, or anything where there's sirens. You're gonna hear that stuff all the time. Be aware and be okay with it, or don't rent that space out. Now, in our space, we are lucky that we control our own heating and air conditioning, and we have even a double unit, so we have double the power, superpowers. In other spaces, it may be controlled by the building, and it even may be on a timer. You may not have heat or air conditioning after hours, so if you tend to work late, you might be freezing your bones, you know what I'm saying? Or boiling hot on the summer days. Okay, make sure that either you control the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or it's hours that you can agree to and acceptable. I've been in people's office where the heating and it goes off after a certain hour in the winter and it starts to get cold. Okay, at 7 p.m. it's like an ice box in there. That building is being cheap. They don't want to heat it and they don't want to give access to the tenants to do anything about it. I've been in people's office like that. It's not fun. Okay, so if you have after hours usage of the space, be aware of what the limitations are. Also, if you have limitations to what you can do in this space, make like noise. For us, noise is a significant factor, but also there's human beings living above. There's residential units above our unit. If we were here in the middle of the night making a lot of noise, they would complain. We don't have that kind of operation as a classroom for youth, but I'm saying if someone wanted to build like a nightclub or a bar, that would be a problem. So there's that aspect as well. Now let's talk dollars. Money, 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 money. How do you negotiate the contract for a commercial venue? Number one, okay, as I mentioned before, you get a few months free in the beginning to do renovations. Try to negotiate that as high as possible. Number two, how do you analyze the actual price of your space? It's not calculated the same way residential rents are. You don't have a monthly rent in the same way that you would just rent an apartment and they would say one bedroom is this, two bedroom is that. With commercial space, the price is how many dollars per square foot per year. So like $30 a square foot per year is how they mathematically do this. And if you want to be able to calculate apples to apples, then you need to just be aware of the pricing model. So $30 per square foot per year is considered low in New York. Somewhere else someone's going to fall off their chair. But that means 1,000 square feet is $30,000 a year. But if you want to do apples to apples, it's per square foot per year, not per month like most residential units where they'll say this is a 1,000 square foot 2-bedroom apartment and it costs X amount per month. This is per year per square foot. Now why is that significant? Because a lot of times they'll let you subdivide the space. So let's say this location I'm in right now had a second doorway, which it doesn't, but if it did, on those panels of glass right over there, then you could put up a wall theoretically right here in the middle and turn this into two different spaces and potentially rent only half of it, paying only for the square footage in your half. So this particular space I'm in right now, including the storage areas, is something like I think 1,200 or 1,400 square feet. So if you divide it in half, you're paying somewhere 600 or 700 square feet. You're literally paying half the rent. That's the whole thing. So you have to be aware that they will often let you subdivide it, and your rent is paid by how many square feet you take, and the actual calculation is annual per square foot, not monthly like a typical residential rent. That's key to understand when you do apples to apples comparison on rent. It's also important to understand when people say, how much does it cost? They're like, $40. And you're gonna go, $40, what the hell is that? No, it means $40 per square foot. So the next question that you need to be asking is, how many square feet is it for $40? Okay, and then you have to do the math if you wanna figure out your monthly rent and go, how much is that per year? You have to divide it by 12, okay? Multiply by the square footage and divide by 12. Now, the other aspect is you have a deposit. It's totally normal. Now, until recently, a lot of landlords ask for 2 months deposit, but actually that's become illegal in New York City. Other places may not have that. They cannot ask for more than 1 month deposit at this point, legal-wise. So that's a new law from about a year ago. So basically, 1 month deposit is normal, but they also make you pay for the first month of rent in advance. So when you walk in the door, you are guaranteed to pay the first 2 months. down, guaranteed. So if you don't have double the first month's rent, don't rent the joint. Go find something smaller with less square footage that costs you less per month. Now, another aspect is when you reach the end of your lease, make sure there's an option to renew if you are not running a pop-up shop, which is but the only reason you wouldn't want to renew, okay? If you don't have an option to renew, technically the landlord can evict you at that point, and you can, go fight with him over it, but you want to have an option to renew. It doesn't necessarily have, not every commercial lease has an option to renew. It's not a normal thing the way it is in a residential unit. So that's another aspect. And then the other element of renewal is, are you renewing at the same rate or at a higher rate or some other aspect like that? Know what you're getting into, because you're investing in renovating the place. You want to make sure that that investment isn't going to get thrown away. Also, check for clauses that let the landlord evict you at will. Okay, a lot of these nasty landlords will stick a clause in there that says if they want to sell the place, they have the right to evict you on 30-day notice. Horrible. Always remove that. Always remove that from every lease, residential or commercial. Okay, I've had a nasty landlord of an apartment I rented for myself personally, residential, and he tried to exercise that. Boy, I was really aggravated because I paid a real estate agent to a finder's fee for that apartment, and the nasty real estate broker, a nasty landlord tried to utilize that. I ended up getting out of that and keeping the apartment, but boy, that's not a fun situation to realize. I learned that the hard way. You should learn from me. Don't do what I suffered through, okay? Make sure there are no way for the landlord to break that lease without at least giving you a ton of money, meaning they have to refund your whole lease term or something obscene like that, and then that will be a preventative measure to stop that from happening. On those really fine words, go rent yourself a nice, awesome space. I love this space, really do. My heart's in it. And like, share, subscribe, share this with everyone you know. If they've never rented an a commercial space before, show them this video, because this joint is awesome. I love that I rented this place. I love that we have a really nice landlord who makes life easy, because when you have bad landlords, it really is difficult. So everything is good, thank God, here. Okay, it's not always been good. I've had lousy spaces too. So on that fine words, please share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!
Yeah!
Dude, look what you can live like. I'm earning money right now. This is nuts! I am in El Tunco. It is an incredible beach resort on the coast of El Salvador. The ocean is gorgeous, although it's hard to swim because you got all them rocks over there. But the sand is black in color. It is dark black. It is wild. I read about it before coming here that it has black sand, but until you see it with your own eyes, you don't realize how incredibly cool it is. Today we are going to discuss, since I'm in this paradise, in this incredible place where I'm doing what I want, as I want it, and I'm still able to keep a career while doing it. Today we are going to discuss living life on your own terms, which includes how do you make money doing something you like? Because if you make money doing something you like, you can live life as you like in incredible places like El Tunco, aquí in El Salvador. It's increíble aquí. It's absolutely amazing. You got to come out here and check this out. Before we discuss how you can live on your own terms, let's first discuss what it takes to live like this. What does it take to come on out here on a whim, on a work day to El Salvador and just start hanging out on the beach of El Tunco with black colored sand, although here it's a little more brown. Later down the beach it turns literally black like charcoal. All right, how do you do that? What is required? Let's analyze this. Number one, freedom of how you spend your time. You need to be able to do what you want when you want it and still make money doing that. That's number one. That's the biggest challenge for most people. I'll explain how to overcome that a little later in the video. Number two, dinero, papi. You need to have money. You need to have enough money to do this. However, don't cost that much. If you are not a person who is needing to stay in 5-star hotels and start blowing bills on living like a millionaire, like a baller, it doesn't cost that much. In fact, every day I spend here in El Salvador cost me a lot less than I pay in rent every day in my New York City apartment while I'm here. So it doesn't really cost that much. Now, obviously you need some disposable income, but it doesn't take much. In fact, if you could afford a vacation once a year at a hotel, you could probably come here for several times a year. It's not that expensive here. Let's go back to the most important part of the equation. Freedom of what you do all day. Number one, the biggest important part of the equation is to get a job that you can do remotely. You could do it from your phone, you could do it from your computer, wherever you are. If you can work that job, and that doesn't have to be a job, it could be a business. I'm using the word job, but technically most of the opportunities are entrepreneurial, but some are actually literally job roles. So people get hired and they can do it from a computer somewhere. Time zone is another factor. I'm from New York. It's 1 to 2 hours, depending on what part of the year you're in, away from El Salvador. It's nothing. Time zone means nothing to come here. But if you go to Asia or India or one of these places in that part of the world, that's becomes a challenge as well, the time zone, if you have to do things during business hours. Not every business does. Now, how do you get that freedom besides changing roles? Because we're going to talk about that. Don't get freaked out and say you're married to your job. You might not really want to be married to your job. Hear me out and listen to this through, because I might have the solution to change your life if you want to accept it. First question is, what is holding you back? Okay, now everybody's got their own baggage on their back. I mean, I'm trying to find a nicer way to say it, but that's the truth. Okay, some people got a family with children. They don't want to pull them out of school. Well, there's lots of people who travel and world school their kids, so that's not much of an excuse unless you're looking for stability. Some people take care of other people. Okay, lots of people have elderly parents or grandparents or family members who are disabled or whatever. They have to take care of them. That is a challenge I can't help with. That is a very large challenge that is beyond the scope of what we're going to discuss. Okay, so just put that disclaimer right out there. But if you are not having to take care of someone else who can't be mobile, here's some of the black sand. This is what it looks like when you get farther down the beach. It's crazy, literally like charcoal. If you're not taking care of someone else, you can pick up and go. There are ways to do it, and you still make money while you're here. Now, I'm going to give you an example that's very important. You have to change your mindset. Your mindset is a lot of what has to do with, can you just do this? Most people are just afraid. Not that they're not capable, they're afraid, and they also don't want to put in the effort. What you do today will get you what you want tomorrow. If you don't put in the effort today, you won't have tomorrow, and you'll be exactly where you are tomorrow, whether you like it or not. All right? I'm from New York City. When I sit on a subway train, everybody around me is sitting there with their phones, playing stupid video games, wasting their brain away, wasting their time away, doing nothing of importance. You got a subway ride. It's usually around half an hour to 45 minutes, most travel in the subway in New York City. Some more, some less, whatever. What are you playing the video games for? I sit there and I research stocks to invest in. I could actually, using like different apps, I don't want to plug any names here, but different stock apps, I could literally make money while sitting on a subway. Unfortunately, only between stops, because New York City never managed to wire the whole train system with cell phone connection, but whatever. I mean, you could literally make money while you're sitting there. You got to get in the mindset of trying to find ways to make money wherever you are. Because once you have those channels of income, dude, look what you can live like. I'm earning money right now. This is nuts. I mean, how the heck would you want to be in a 9 to 5 when you could do this? Literally, anybody can do this. Now let's discuss the anybody part, because probably there's a ton of people watching this who keep saying to themselves, anybody but me. Or I don't have the skills for that. I don't have, no! You gotta do what you're passionate about in life. That's the difference. Most people work a job they hate. They do as much work as they can to not get fired. They go home, rinse, repeat, wake up in the morning, do it again. Miserable existence. Don't do that. If you're in that now, fix it now. You can fix it to literally within a matter of weeks sometimes. Depends what your passions are. Let's discuss the passion part now, so get to the punchline already. I get impatient listening to myself waiting for the punchline sometimes. I know everyone's gonna put in the comments, get to the punchline. All right, here we go. Anything that you like in life, there's a way to make money with it. Seriously. Some ways are more challenging to get started than others, but you can make money with virtually anything There are people who design video games. They like to play games, okay? There are people who sell video games after paying someone else to do the dirty work of designing it, and they make money on the App Store, okay? This is the most simplest passion because lots of people like video games. Highly competitive, not necessarily a good niche. Whatever it is you do though, you can make money with it, and usually in a way that's remote. Okay, video game designer does not need to show up to an office. Selling video games doesn't need to show up to an office. Pick anything you want. You can find ways to monetize it. Are you a creative person? Do you like to draw? First find out if you're actually good at it, because if you're not good at it, you're gonna struggle with this one. But you can sell your art in 1,000 different ways. You don't have to sell original pieces, which is extremely difficult market to get into. You could get creative, okay? And you could sell digital art, okay? And get it printed on mugs or something, or get a contract to create a graffiti mural somewhere with the city in a place that you want to be. I'm here in El Salvador. There's almost no graffiti here, at least not that I've seen. But there are places in the world that love those murals. Brazil in particular. Brazil's got murals everywhere. It's not considered illegal to do artistic graffiti, so I'm told. Don't get arrested on my account. So crazy thing, I reached the end of the beach in this direction, and if I shoot the camera in the opposite way where I'm walking, I'm in a big shadow from the sun. So I know I'm gonna look a little Hunchback of Notre Dame right now, but it's all right. It's all good, because here I am, El Tunco, El Salvador, living life to the fullest, and you can too. And here's how you're gonna do it. You're gonna pick whatever it is in your life that you're passionate about. And that's the first thing. Decide what it is you'd like to do for the rest of your life. You don't actually have to commit to doing it for the rest of your life, by the way. You just have to decide, what is it you like so much? I can't find a good way around the shadows. What is it you like so much that you'd be happy doing it for the foreseeable future? Pick that. Now, next question. Are you any good at it? Seriously, I'm not kidding. Be honest, be genuine. Okay, you got people who say I love to sing and then they sound horrible. Decide for yourself. Honestly, can you really do this? Are you actually any good at it? Because if it's a hobby, it's not gonna work. It's gotta be something you're passionate about. Everybody's got something they're passionate about. If you're trading baseball cards, comic books, lots of money in that. There's also virtual comic books. There's a million things. You can do arbitrage business. You buy big boxes of comic books, sort through them and go through them and sell out the prize-winning ones in there. There's a million businesses for every passion, but you gotta really like it or you're gonna burn out. If you're doing something you hate, you ain't gonna live like this, because you'll burn out. It's important. Gotta love what you do. Pick anything. You can make a business out of it, or you could get a job that's remote out of it, and then you could come out here on a weekday and make money while you're on the beach. It's really wild, okay? Literally any passion. If you like to read, there's a million jobs on Fiverr and on other outsourcing websites for people who need editing jobs. Excuse me, Fiverr's where you promote yourself. But there's places you can post up that you do text editing because you like to read. People send you their novels, their written work, whatever. You edit it, they pay you for it. You could be on the beach doing this. Seriously, the sun might be a little bothersome, but either way, no matter what you like, there's a way to do it remotely, unless it's a physical labor job. It's the one exception, but then you can go to where you want to be. If you really want to be here in El Salvador, yeah, and you like to do physical labor, you can get a construction job here, I suppose. I don't know what kind of visas you need for that, but that's not really the main incentive here. The incentive is to work remotely wherever you are, pick up and go, make money from your phone, sit on the bus. There's so many ways. You could put stuff on eBay. You could drop ship. Drop shipping is another one. It's a totally remote business. You don't even do anything after you set it up except for promote it. You promote it, you deal with customer service sometimes, and then you make money from wherever you are. And if you're a creative person, you want to draw and do these things, you make your own designs on products you're drop shipping, custom designs, sell it, market it. If you're a linguist, you can do voiceovers. I don't know if that's linguist. I think that's a linguist. Okay, you can sell voiceover work online. Lots of people do that. Doesn't pay that well. But again, anywhere you are in the world, as long as you're in a quiet spot, you can do that job. Live life to the fullest. Figure out how you can work whatever it is on your own terms. And then live on your own terms. Truly, life will be better for you. You gotta live life on your own terms. I want to tell you a little story. When I was a young teenager, just starting out high school, okay, I was living by a family member, not with my parents. And I was really a lousy student. I was probably at the bottom of the class, and it wasn't because I wasn't smart enough, but rather because I had no interest. I didn't like it. I didn't like school. I never did. All right, go figure, right? So now, one day it was time to wake up for school, and I was pretty miserable and didn't want to go. Didn't want to get out of bed, to be exact. And my family member basically said to me something like, "It's time to get up for school." And I'm like, yo, I don't need this. I don't want to do this. What's the point? You're just going to work another job that you hate. Just going to grow up and work a job I hate like every other working stiff. And he said to me something that stuck with me. He loves his job. He's doing what he loves. He has a profession, a career, lifelong. He's done it his whole life. And at this point, now that I'm way after high school, he's retired. He loves what he did. That was the way he wanted to spend his life. And he said to me, no, not every job is miserable. You don't have to do what you don't want. Especially if you start out when you're young, like I was at the time. You got to start sometime though, even if you're not young. If you're watching this and you're not young, it's okay. Today's the first day of the rest of your life. You can start today. But you got to do what you love. He said that. You do not have any motivation in life if you don't do what you love. So that's a key thing that stuck with me. It's so important to do what you like. So many people do what their people tell them they should do, or what's the responsible thing to do, blah, blah, blah. Just figure out a way to make money, ample money, doing something you love, and life is so much better. You gotta live life on your own terms. God bless you. Check it out from El Salvador. All right, like, share, subscribe. If you don't even agree with me, I don't care. I do care, I shouldn't say that. I hope you like it. I hope you agree with me. If you don't, please share this to your friends and see if they do. All right, see you all in the next video. Check it out from the gorgeous black sands of El Tunco in El Salvador. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Yeah!
I am in Americana, Manhasset. It is otherwise colloquially named Miracle Mile. It is probably one of the poshest strip malls in anywhere in the United States. You have the most expensive stores here with the greatest overpriced merchandise imaginable. I'm serious. So while we are in this highly overpriced area, I think it's perfectly appropriate, especially right here in front of Tiffany's, to discuss negotiating prices when you are a buyer, meaning you're trying to buy something. How do you get the best prices? Now, you could obviously utilize this information in the inverse and use it when you're selling something to sell it for the greatest price, but we're gonna focus on getting the best deals when you buy things. The first thing that's totally obvious is don't shop right here. This is where you get the worst deals. So the first thing you gotta do is decide what it is that you're buying and how much are you ready to spend. You have to know what is the common high price and common low price for that item. And I'll explain that in a moment. There is something called buyer's markets and seller's markets. A buyer market is something where people get the lowest prices commonly. Things sell for low price. Then there is seller's markets. Seller's markets is places that command... Seller's markets command the greatest prices. So when you sell something, you want to sell it in a seller's market, and when you buy something, you want to buy it in a buyer's market. You need to know what your product goes for in both the seller's market and the buyer's market, the low price and the high price. If you can find a buyer's market and seller's market for the exact same product, then you get... Hello. Hi. Then you get a... it's your birthday?
Yes.
Happy birthday! Yay! Then you get a arbitrage situation where you can win the spreads. What that means is you keep buying things from the buyer's market and reselling them on the seller's market, and the difference is your spread, and that's your profit margin. Okay, that's called an arbitrage business. That's for another day, but it's an important concept to understand when you're when you're trying to negotiate prices. So, wow, this is beautiful. Bulgari and other stuff in there. Okay, so the next thing you want to understand is how hungry are you and how hungry is your seller? That's the first thing. If you are the type of person who needs this object so badly that if you don't have it, you're going to be hungry for whatever reason, that makes you in a really poor position to negotiate prices. Okay, you cannot have FOMO, fear of missing out. If you do, you are going to be in a very poor position to negotiate very strongly. Oh, there's a McLaren driving by. There you go. If you have FOMO and you can't afford to not get the product that's going to be a challenge to negotiate. You have to be ready to walk away from the table. The same goes for the seller. You have to understand how hungry they are. Are they going to find another buyer easily if you don't buy it? How much time do you think you can stall before they will find another buyer? Meaning that if you don't buy it today and you sleep on the idea, will someone else buy it tomorrow? Or will they sit on that object for 6 more months because nobody else wants it? You're the only buyer. That amount of urgency that comes out of the seller is necessary. Excuse me. Knowing how much urgency the seller has to get rid of the item is key. If they are hungry for the money and they don't have another buyer lined up, kind of like you don't even know where you're gonna sell that thing if you don't so I'm not expressing that well. If the seller doesn't know where they're gonna actually get it sold, should you walk away from the deal or not buy it from them, then you're in a really strong position, because that person doesn't have any idea how to actually turn that into money other than you buying it. Turn the object into money. So that's a great position to be in. You got to figure out how hungry they are. If you know they are very hungry, literally hungry, maybe they need money for their rent, and you buying this object pays their rent, then you're in a position to play stalling tactics. Time is on your side. Now, what that means is, if you sell them, I got to think about it, because they give you a price that you don't really think is so great. And you say, I gotta think about it, I'll come back, and you're ready to walk away. Sometimes you physically walk away, you literally look like you're leaving, and then all of a sudden the price comes down, because they know that if you walk away, they might get evicted because they need your money to pay the rent. All right, that's a great position. I've had people literally run after me physically, like actually come after me. Wait, hold on. Come here, let's sign the papers, whatever. All right, so it's important to know how hungry the seller is, and you have to know yourself how hungry you are, and can you find another object and just walk away from this one? Are you comfortable with that? Now, if you can walk away, that's always the best position to be in. And if the seller can't afford to lose you as a buyer, that's a great position. If they are in dire need of money, that's even a better position. However, if you think that they could find another buyer if you don't buy it, then you really don't have time on your side and can't play that game strong. But there's other games you can play. Now, let's say you got a seller who has really an analytical mind. He's trying to crunch numbers. He's trying to get the best dollar value for his object, and he's sitting there analytically figuring this out with a calculator. Could I still make money at this rate? Tell me, that kind of thing. Then you want to kind of utilize what you know about them against them. And what that means is, if you have ADHD, this is the time to use that to your advantage. Because people with ADHD tend to think about 16 different things at once, and here's where you're going to use it. Because people don't have ADHD can't usually do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to do what they say in Yiddish, kibitzing. Kibitzing means talking about any old nonsense. Nothing of value. You're not talking about anything of value. You're just talking about nothing. And when you kibitz enough, you distract the person's thoughts, and they can't be overly analytical and start gauging, is this a good deal, is this not a good deal? So my example is like this. The guy tells you a price, let's see, what it is, Louis Vuitton, okay? This Louis Vuitton bag up there, over there, I don't know, it's probably $10,000, but I'm gonna, we're on Mirko Mile here. But in reality, let's just pretend it's $100 because that makes the math better. Let's say he says $100 for that Louis Vuitton bag. You don't really want to pay 100, you want to pay like 50, okay? I'm gonna try to walk through this restaurant without shouting, so my voice might get a little quiet for a moment. All right, so you want to pay 50, he wants 100. How do you make that work? All right, I'm literally in an outdoor restaurant. This is kind of crazy to film like this. All right, so now he wants to get that $50 down, and he's sitting there crunching the numbers, and he thinks he's gonna lose money at $50. He doesn't even want to sell it at that price. What you could do is start talking about, oh, that bag looks great. Have you been selling bags a while? Have you been doing this? Have you doing that? Just start talking about left field things that take place, okay? It doesn't even matter what you're saying. It doesn't even matter what it is you're saying, but yeah.
What's your channel? What's your channel?
So he wants to sell it to you for 100, you want to pay 50, and he's busy trying to figure out, can he still make money with it? So you're going to use your ADHD skills and keep him busy talking about any old nonsense that you can keep his mind preoccupied, because you already know the numbers. You don't need to concentrate on it. He's trying to concentrate. You're trying to distract him. Keep him going. Talk about, oh my God, that's the most beautiful mannequin I've ever seen in my life. I love mannequins. It could be any old nonsense. You're not doing it for any functional conversational reason. You're legit doing it just to keep him distracted. That's the main point. To distract him, keep his mind busy, and then he can't think straight to do the analytical stuff. When you kibitz enough with the seller and you get them talking to you about nothing and everything under the sun other than negotiation, and keep them mentally preoccupied and busy, there's one more thing you're doing. You are getting them committed. They have now invested their time into you. Hopefully you're likable enough that they even like you and they enjoyed their time spent with you. Now, why is that important? Because after they invested all that time and spent that effort, that emotional effort to bond and connect with you verbally, at that point they do not want to walk away empty-handed. If they don't have you as a buyer, they will feel like they lost out and lost their time that they invested in trying to make that sale. You got to get them committed and invested. That is a major factor. There is a lot of sales tactics that try to keep people going as long as possible. I don't personally use those, but I do use things where time is on my side, where I keep the flow going long enough to make sure that I'm going to close that sale if I really want it. And if I don't care and I have enough comfort zone because I could find another place to buy this thing from, and I'm not overly hungry, then I will do the opposite. I will tell them I'm going to sleep on it and see how hungry they are, and let them come down in price if they want to close this deal today. That's another tactic. Sometimes you get a different type of person. Hey, here's Brooks Brothers. They unfortunately filed Chapter 11. Glad to see they're still here though. Oh no, they're boarded up. Never mind. Anyway, so now another tactic you could do if you get a person who has an emotional side to them, you got to read your seller. Whoa, that's a Tesla from the underside. Okay, yeah, it's the Tesla store. Look at that. Okay, now if the person is an emotional type of person and you think that they are gonna respond to this, here's another cool tactic to try. He tells you the price of 100, you say, I want 50, I only want what's fair. I'm only looking for a fair price. What is the problem with that statement? Why is that so emotionally manipulative? I'll explain momentarily after I look at these sheep. Cute. Okay, so it's emotionally manipulative to do that. It's a tactic, because what it is you're implying that his $100 price is not fair. That's it. And people want to have things fair. And if you're implying that what he's asking is not fair, but you're not confronting him with it, you're saying, I only want what's fair, that is a really strong tactic, because he can only respond in two ways. Meet you at your proposed fair price, or tell you in a confrontational manner, contradicting you, no, what I had was fair, which is contradictory. And people have, human nature does not want to contradict people. So it's interesting that way. You're putting the seller in a very uncomfortable position psychologically when you do that. It's a weird tactic, very manipulative. I don't personally use that tactic because I don't like to manipulate people. I've been told I'm a strong enough negotiator as it is. Like I intimidate people when I negotiate price. I've been told that many times. I get good prices for things, so it works. Key lesson when you're talking prices, whoever mentions the number first always loses. Always. This is a lesson that whoever says that first number, they are going to lose. And I'll explain that momentarily, but I want to first point out a caveat to that. Don't go crazy with avoiding saying a number, because if you go too far, the seller will get frustrated and walk away. So you kind of, holy cow. There's a person on the other side of that, sculpture person. Okay, so the idea is like this. The first person who throws out the number gives the ballpark of where you're negotiating from. That ballpark isn't what you want to be, okay? If you are the buyer, let's say, and you say, I want this item for 100, now the seller's either going to probably take your money or tell you a higher number. However, now work in reverse. If the seller had in his mind to sell it for 80 bucks, you just spent $20 more than you needed to. And you may even got them down lower. Okay, whoever throws out the first number always loses. Kind of got to avoid that. If you are pressed hard enough by the seller to give you that, to give the first number, give in, but give a number that's a little bit below what you were aiming for. So that way there's some negotiation room. Sometimes you have a seller who is very adamant about not messing with the price. They want to get what they want to get. In their mind, that's fair. And those kind of sellers are a little bit harder to negotiate, but you still can. The secret is like this. Know what cards you have and what you can play with and what assets you can mess with and what you can't. You get a seller like that, you can't negotiate the price down. If you are comfortable paying that price, that's fine, but now you can start negotiating for value add. That's a horse, isn't it? Yes, it is. Didn't expect to see a horse. Okay, you can now negotiate for value add, which means, let's say you are going to buy this Prada store, the real estate for it, right? There it is, Prada. Okay, you're buying this Prada store real estate. The seller of the store has no intention of going down in price, but you say, I want these horses, which let's pretend they're fine art, which I don't think they are, to be included in the sale. Meaning you're not asking for a lower price, but you're getting more value for your money. Or in the case of Prada, yes, I'll buy the store for your asking price, but these bags and all the inventory must come with it. See, you're not negotiating down. He thinks he's still getting the same amount of money, but in reality, he's getting much less value because he's got to give you a lot more with the sale. So it's called value add. You kind of hit them at the end. If he doesn't want to go down in price, then you take more for your money. It's just as simple as that. And make it worth your while. Always make the deals worth your while, okay? If you can't get the money that you want, then make it worth your while. You can apply that actually to a lot of negotiation. I mean, even getting a job. I know somebody who used to have the outlook, and I respect it very much, never turned down a job offer. That was his outlook. You just make it worth your while, the job offer. So he once got a job offer in a place that he had no intention of being neighborhood-wise. It was safety-wise. He didn't want the job, but he said to himself, rather than say no, I'm going to say an amount of money that I'm ready to put up with that. And I want you to lease me a car as part of the job offer. Give me a car, a company car, and give me this amount of money, and then I'll do it. And believe it or not, they said yes, and he worked there for several years. So that's the whole thing. Never say no to an offer. Just make it worth your while. That is another aspect. One final tip for how to really nail that negotiation down. Okay, let's say you are ready to buy, I don't know, this Tiffany's bracelet in the window. The price is $10,000. I'm throwing it out there. You look at the bracelet and you go, wait a minute, that's not platinum, that's steel. All of a sudden you've pointed out a negative that wasn't obvious. Something that wasn't obvious. You're buying a car. Oh gosh, I just realized this car doesn't have airbags if it's like a 1990s car before they were legal, standard. Just pick out any flaw. You can plan it in your head or do it spontaneously. It doesn't matter. Just pick any random flaw. You're going to use that as leverage to get that last little bit. Oh, what can you do? It doesn't really have the same characteristics that it was supposed to have. In the ad, it didn't say that this was that it was steel instead of platinum. I just assumed, you know, it's Tiffany's. It's got to be a platinum ring. Whatever the logic is. Okay, you're buying that jacket. Oh gosh, this leather is made out of pig hide. I thought it was, you know, fine leather. What is this? And at that point, you put the seller in a position of uncertainty. They're not sure if you're gonna walk right then and there, and they're ready to throw it out. Now, I usually, at that point, don't even ask for a figure of money. Can I go this way? No. Oh yeah, there's more lighting. Okay. I usually don't ask for more money at that point. I usually let them suggest it, and whatever it is they suggest, I go with that figure. And oh, this is too dark here. I'm gonna go back that way. Whatever they suggest, I'm ready to take at that point. So what I'm talking about, like, let's say you got a camera you're buying for $500. You point out, it's not really focusing the way it was advertised, but in your head, you know you still want it. Instead of paying the guy, what can you do about it? Can you do something with the price? I mean, I thought it would focus better than this, but I still kind of want it, but I'm not sure. And at that point, depending on how hungry the seller is, they're gonna knock off something or a lot. It depends how hungry they are. I've had instances where they knock off 5%. I've had instances where they come down like a lot because they realize you're gonna walk, or they think so anyway. That's the whole key. So at that point, be ready to take that money, because if you don't, then they're gonna get frustrated, the seller, and you're done. And then that'll be the end of the negotiation. You can only push it to a point. You have to read that seller. And there are times, by the way, if you are hungry for that product and don't think you could easily replace it, that you should just throw the towel in and accept it. If you think that the value's there because you're gonna make money with it all other ways. I bought a vehicle where I didn't negotiate at all. And vehicles is like common, everyone asks for a lower price. This particular one was extremely low price to begin with and high quality vehicle. And I knew that I could always flip it and get 100% of my money back in a seller's market. Where I was buying this was lower priced than all the other ones to begin with. And the seller voiced to me verbally while we were discussing the vehicle, I'm glad you came here. I wasn't looking for someone who was gonna start bargaining down. I know what I got, I know the value of it. And I said to myself, this guy, if I try to bargain him down, I'm gonna lose him. So instead, I got him to throw some random junk in. I think he gave me a new car battery or something. I had a little bit of value up, okay? Added the value, upped it with a value add. But other than that, I took it at face value, and then I could flip the car and make money with it anyway. So there's no need to negotiate. There's a time to throw in that towel and make the seller happy, because sometimes you can ask them straight up, what is the lowest amount of money you'd sell this for? I do that a lot, actually, negotiation-wise, because I don't really want to waste anybody's time. If they're gonna say some number that is unreasonably high, I'm gonna walk. And let's see if they chase me. As simple as that. It makes the negotiation process quicker, okay? I don't wanna waste my time negotiating things with someone who isn't gonna come down at all. Oh God, I'm in a shadow, hold up. Okay, I want to negotiate with people who are ready to play, or I'm ready to pay what they're asking. I don't need to waste anyone's time, you know? So that's the whole thing. Know when there's times to negotiate and times to throw in the towel and just accept it, because you're gonna make money in other ways. And on those fine words from Americana Manhasset, otherwise known as Miracle Mile, in the extraordinarily affluent part of Long Island, New York, See you in the next video. Please subscribe, share this with everybody, whether they are people you know who are just terrible at negotiation, or if they are master negotiators who want to critique what I'm saying and add to it. Throw it in the comments. All right, I'll see you all in the next video. Please share, like, and subscribe.
Yeah!
It is a cold, frigid day here in New York City, but it is also beautiful and snowy and amazing. So, you know, gotta limit the complaints about the cold. Today we are gonna discuss how not to get taken advantage of in a professional setting. I'm hoping to get through this video without falling because the snow is roughly 6 inches deep under my feet as I walk, and I'm staring into a camera instead of where I'm going. So if I fall, you guys get to laugh at me. You gotta keep watching to see if that happens. I hope it doesn't. Oh, I'm really sinking in the snow. All right, so in a professional setting, the most common way people get taken advantage of is usually to do with scope creep, meaning that they were assigned a task and all of a sudden that task grew after, but their salary or their schedule to do it didn't grow with it. Meaning, you are told you have to work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day for your fixed salary. You don't get paid overtime. And yet, one day your boss says, we have a deadline coming up tomorrow. You gotta get this done today. And you end up staying instead of till 6 till 8, 2 more hours of work that day. You don't get paid for that work. What do you do? Because if you just eat it and accept it and show up to work the next day normally, well, humans are creatures of habit. That's gonna repeat itself, and you're gonna have a supervisor who's gonna do that to you all the time. Because why not? It's free labor for them. They don't care. They're not worried about that you got something to go home to. They're happy to get the extra 3 hours of work. What can you do about that to prevent that from recurring? Very easy, actually. You simply say to your supervisor at 8 p.m. when you're finally done and ready to go home, it's 8 p.m., 2 hours since I was supposed to be home. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. because you're normally supposed to be there at 9, 2 hours late. If they just say, okay, this works, that's okay, no problems. If they say, no, you gotta be here at 9, then you tell them very simply, then I'm gonna be leaving tomorrow 2 hours early. I'll go make something up with my wife, my kids, my whatever. You know, we're gonna do a party at 4 o'clock in that case. Something happens. Basically, you wanna recover those hours if you're not getting paid overtime. It's really important to do that to make sure that you have the boundaries set correctly so that doesn't keep happening. Oh my God, this is so cute. You gotta see this thing. That's adorable. All right, by setting those boundaries, you ensure that your boss knows there's a cost to keeping you. It's not free. Now, sometimes people are just at the beginning of their career and they kind of are willing to put in that extra effort and don't mind losing a little bit of lifetime for no pay because they don't have an alternative, or your job is so important and critical to you financially, you're afraid to lose it. In those situations, you kind of have no choice. You're better off not being in those situations. Figure out ways to make employment arrangements where you are paid overtime. If they keep you overtime, they give you extra bonus money, then it's okay. Now, if that happens on a regular basis, okay, that you keep getting held overtime and you're not getting paid, you gotta figure it out. Figure out if it's worth your while to stay in that role. Maybe it's time for another job. Now, I have a great scenario of something that's happened to me so many times, but this is one story that's happened to me probably 10 times at least in my life, if not more. All right, I sold a bunch of older computers. Whoa, I just fell in a snow hole. See, I gotta keep watching. Maybe I'll fall. Maybe you get a good laugh out of this. All right, so I sold a bunch of old computers to somebody who bought them after negotiating really hard down. I'm usually pretty rough about this, but I know these computers have are really hard to move because they're old and nobody wants them. This guy wanted to take them all. So I sold it to the guy. Calls me up the very next day, okay, after getting this killer deal for the computers, and goes, can you come over and install them all and assemble them all, hook them up, make sure they're working? I said, oh, hell no. Not in those words, of course. But I knew right away what that meant. I said no, by the way. But what I knew that meant is if I come today to help him install his stuff, which sounds benign, tomorrow when he has a problem, he's going to call me and ask for free warranted service on him. He's going to want me to come fix him if it breaks 6 months down the road. And he just doesn't intend to pay for that. Now, I said no because I knew this guy has no budget to make it worth my while. If he did, or if I thought he did, I wouldn't have said no. I would have made it worth my while. I would have been clicking in my head the buttons, the calculator buttons, and figure out how much money I got to charge this guy to make it worth my while. Meaning, I wouldn't just show up the next day and install his computers. I'd say, that's fine, my hourly rate is X dollars an hour. I figured this would take me about 3 hours to do. He can either say yes or no at that point, because I just set the ultimatum. The ultimatum is, if you want me to install it, you got to pay for that time, and this is the amount to pay. He would probably react with, oh my God, so much money, or can't you do it for free? In which case, he say no. Just flat out no. Now, also you have to understand how to estimate your time wisely and how to estimate the value of your time wisely. If you get a job and you underestimate your time, how long it's going to take you, you could end up in a conflict with the person paying you. So it's important to recognize how much money you're going to need for that effort, A to Z. On the flip side, when I get from a contractor for an estimate for work, and I know there's no way in the world this guy's going to be able to complete the work in the time estimate they gave, or the budget is so much lower than it probably needs to be, I have two thoughts that go through my head. One, jackpot, and two, what happens if he doesn't deliver? Because it's highly likely that person won't deliver. Now, so you got to take those two parts and join them together. Number one, you set a contract arrangement that if they don't deliver according to the terms that they set forth, meaning the timing, the schedule, and the money. If they can't deliver, and you set also a third one, the quality of service, meaning that if you ordered, let's say a new computer, he can't give you a used computer, or he can't give you a computer that's problematic, it's got to be working. Yeah, that's a really bad example, but you're setting the level of standard to acknowledge that the order was delivered. So if it's an electrician, 20 working electric sockets around 3 rooms, okay? And they have to work and they can't fall out of the wall, you know? All right, so that's the general idea. Now, once you set those terms, you set them in such a way that if they don't meet them, there is a penalty for the contractor. And to counterbalance that, I usually give also a bonus if they do meet it, because I don't believe they will. And if they do, God bless them, they deserve it. But I don't think they will, and usually they don't, honestly, and they usually end up getting the penalty. But the thing is, the penalty part is a little challenging. So it's like, if they say they can do this job in 1 week, and you know it takes 3 weeks, there's no way they're keeping that. You give them a bonus, an extra 20% if they could do it on time, and they lose 20% if they get it after the 1 week. Now, what happens if that 1 week becomes 5 weeks? Because it's a 3-week job, and they already, you know they already can't estimate. What if they're also slow? You have to account for that too. So generally you set those penalties on a sliding scale. Something like every week it goes down by a certain percentage, so they want to deliver. But you also have to be aware, wow, check this dude out. You also have to be aware that at some point the penalty stops mattering, because you're gonna run out of funds and they're not gonna want to do the job, and they'll abandon, which is also bad because it leaves you high and dry after you waited for that time. So you kind of have to figure that out when you set the contract agreement. That's just something to do. But when you get someone who underestimates a contract by a large margin, at least based on what you believe is safe estimation, you got to just be aware. Be aware that you don't have to believe what they wrote as likely to be accurate, and you can profit off of that because they just underestimated how much it's going to cost. Okay. So that's basically the idea. All right, you always want to have a clear. I just walked into a snowball fight. Hold on.
So bad.
You always want to have. I'm gonna get hit right here. Hello.
Is this on YouTube?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, of course. Go for
Hello.
it. Hey.
Hello.
If you are afraid of asking for that extra money for your time, you don't be. Because you always have to ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? Now, you have to be smart. You don't ask for that when you are desperate for cash and you can't afford to lose a job. So I'm not saying do it in every scenario, but if you have the flexibility to either be going out and getting another job, or you have financial stability and you don't really want to be taken advantage of and you can afford it, always either say no when you're taken advantage of, or don't say no and make it worth your while, which is the better one. Give that price to make it worth your while to do whatever they're asking when they're trying to get a freebie. Always ask what's the worst that can happen in this situation. The worst is you probably lose your client, lose your job or whatever like that, but usually that doesn't happen. Usually people are open to negotiation, and when they're open to negotiation, there's room to negotiate. Therefore, make it worth your while. Don't get... Wow.
Oh, jeez. Oh, sorry.
No worries. Make it worth your while. Don't be a sucker, okay? Because when you show that you are firm on the values of your time and that you're not ready to be ripped off for your time and taken advantage of, people usually respect that. They usually respect the strength of your authority. Now, if you're just starting out your career, you may not have that authority, and that's okay. Let people take advantage of you because they're gonna love you for it if you're comfortable doing that. But if you're experienced in your career and you're ready to give up a client who's probably not gonna pay you more, meaning when they start doing these freebie business, it's probably a losing proposition financially for you anyway. It's not really a great client. So as long as you're ready to walk from that client, never accept it without making it worth your while, or just flat out say no. Thank you all from the frigid, cold, but beautiful New York City in the snow. See you all in the next video. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. And I didn't fall. I just noticed that. I made it through the whole video with tripping a little, but never falling. All right, like, subscribe. See you in the next video. And don't let nobody take your advantage of you. Like 5 years ago.
Did you catch her tripping?
I think so. I definitely caught her after she fell flat down. The question is, did it catch you on camera? I won't until I watch her back the footage.
Okay.
Yeah!
No. No. Just say no. No, this is not a throwback to Ronald Reagan. We're gonna talk about today how it is so important that you learn to say no. People who say yes to things that they don't actually intend on doing can drive everybody else crazy, and other people lose respect for them. It is important to have enough of a backbone to say no. I am in a Brazilian rainforest, but no, this is not Amazonia. I'm actually in the middle of Rio, the city. It's a little urban oasis getaway that's in the middle of the city. It's not so little, it's several kilometers in size. It is absolutely gorgeous here. The trees that you see around me, a lot of them are jackfruit trees. Now, if you've never seen a jackfruit, it's about the size of a watermelon, but has spikes around it. It's gigantic, and they grow high up on the trees. So if one comes down on me as I'm walking, this video will be my last will and testament, because they're big and they weigh, I don't know what they weigh. They're heavy. Is it like a watermelon? All right, the trees are not just the only amazing things though. There are marmoset monkeys all over behind me, and if you watch long enough, you're probably going to see them or hear them. If you see trees moving, those monkeys are jumping around there. They're absolutely cute and adorable and awesome. And I've already seen some kind of bird that looks like a toucan, which I've never seen in my life, and beautiful butterflies, all this stuff. This place is amazing, but that's not what you're here for. You're here because you want to learn how to say no, or at least to know why to say no. And this is the whole thing. When people take on assignments that they are not capable of doing, you just burn your bridge. You aggravate everybody. You should have said, no, this is beyond my ability to perform this in a satisfactory way. When you say that your abilities are not capable of performing this, you are flexing your own boundaries. Okay, when you flex your boundaries, you're showing the world This is my capabilities. I know what I'm good at, and I'm not going to undervalue my work by producing subpar results. That's why you say no when you think you can't do something. Because if you say yes and deliver the subpar results, you're just aggravating everybody. Now I'm going to give you real world examples from my life and business and whatever, okay? Starting with life. One of my good friends, he has a BMW, or he had a BMW. That's where the story goes. He gave it to some guy, some shade tree mechanic to repair for some engine issue. I don't remember what the specific one was. And the guy kept trying and trying to fix this thing, and he couldn't make the dang thing work. But every time he kept saying, I need new parts from BMW. I need new parts from BMW. Can you pay for it? So make sure. Long story short, after like 4 or 5 months of trying to fix this thing, the guy said, I give up. I don't know what to do. They blew thousands and thousands of dollars in parts. This guy couldn't fix the thing, and they still didn't have a car that ran. What should what should really have happened there? The mechanic should have said, I don't know jack about fixing BMWs, and say, no, I can't fix this thing. Because he didn't get paid because he didn't fix the car. The car didn't work. And my friend threw tons of money and parts at the thing and got nothing for it. So everybody's unhappy. How much better would it have been if the guy just said, yo, I don't know how to... A leaf just hit me in the face. I don't know how to fix this thing. No, I can't take on the job. It makes it better for everybody, you know? It's better for everybody when you say no to things that you don't think you're gonna perform well in. I've hired people who said yes to me when they couldn't do the job, and then I'm behind schedule, aggravated, and they're not performing well, and everything is bad. They should have just said, no, I don't know how to do this, and I would have found the candidate who does know how. Okay? That's it. Say no to things when you can't do them. Now, sometimes you can do them, but you don't have the inclination because of the role, or you don't have the time to do it. In such a case, you make it worth your while. How do you do that? Sorry, I didn't expect stairs on this trail. It was a little bit of effort to climb and took. How do you make it worth your while? You get the other person saying no. In order for me to perform this work, or to put all my other jobs aside so I have the time to perform this work, I need X dollars to make it worth my while. And then it's worth it to me to do this work. Now you get the other person saying yes or no. That's the whole thing. Let the other guy say no if you don't want to say no. I advise always, oh my God, this is a long stairwell. It just keeps going and going. I advise everybody, make it worth your while. Don't always say no, but definitely don't say yes when you don't want to do it. Be a person of moral character. Don't say yes to things that you don't think you can succeed in, because that's just your ethics, you know? That's you deciding for yourself that you're going to live up to whatever it is you commit to. And that's really, really, really important. Check out this water over there. Oh my God. This rainforest idea seemed like a great idea when I started the video. I didn't expect to have to climb that while on film. Oh my God, a beautiful gecko, a frog. Look at him. Oh, he's adorable. The wildlife here is truly amazing. I can't tell you how many times I have hired people who looked incredible on paper. They had these really, really strong credentials, and yet they didn't come through when push comes to shove. They couldn't do the work for whatever reason. I don't even know the reason sometimes. They just didn't deliver or were so late. And then they kept saying, no, I'm coming through, I'm coming through, I'm coming through, but they never actually come through. I'm like, dude, just say no. Tell me no. Tell me you can't do it, and I'll go hire someone else. I think that's probably the main reason I've had projects go past deadlines in my career, is based on people who say yes when they really mean yes when they really should be saying no. It's people who say yes to projects they can't fulfill that screw over the timelines. Just learn to say no. It's so much better for everybody. I don't know what the psychological reason is that people seem to have a problem with saying no, but don't be that person. You say no. Learn to always say no to anything that doesn't fit what you see for yourself. You can't do the work? No, I'm not taking the job. You can't finish on time? I'm only gonna take it with X amount of money to make it worth my while to do it. And then the other guy can say yes or no, you're not getting the job at that price. And that's okay, because you don't want it for less money than that. Signing off from the most incredible Brazilian rainforest in Rio, Brazil. Looks like Amazonia, but it's right in the heart of Rio. I'll see you in the next video. Share, like, subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Yeah!
See those apartments over there? That's about the lowest cost living that exists within Queens, New York. Those apartments right there, give or take, not exactly, just approximately. They are townhouses, they're walk-ups, and they are in a part of Queens that has no access to subways, and the buses are slow moving over here. Now, why is that significant? Because in the people who have those apartments where you're walking up flights of steps with packages and whatnot just to get home, they are paying approximately $15,000 to $20,000 a year less than someone who has the most luxurious apartment in the same neighborhood in a brand new high-rise condominium. Now, $15,000 to $20,000 a year sounds like, oh my God, so much money, but it's not. And I will explain why. In fact, that's going to be the theme of today's video. We are going to talk about how you can spend money to make a lot more money. Actually, though, it's more about improving the productivity by throwing money to fix your problems. I'll explain right now. If ever you've heard the story about sharpening the saw, it's a story about someone who was trying to chop down a tree, but he was using a saw that was dull and it needed to be sharpened. But because he was so busy trying to get the tree to get chopped down with this sawing back and forth. I'm using an axe motion when I'm saying saw. But sawing the tree and trying, the dang thing ain't gonna even make a dent in the tree because it is a dull saw. He needs to stop and sharpen the saw, and his time will be used better, and the time he spends sharpening that saw will come back to him. He will make that money back, that time back, excuse me. And time is indeed money. If you are an entrepreneur, here's the lesson. If you are an entrepreneur, your time should be worth enough money that it's worth it to you to throw money at the problem. Now, not everyone has that, and I'll explain how to fix that if that's the case. Basically, it is easier to spend money and earn it than it is to save money and use time instead. If you are an entrepreneur, usually that is the case. If it's not, then you have to figure out ways to make it that way, and I'll explain how. So let's say you're having a business that only pays you so much per day, okay? You only get so much money per day, no matter how hard you work. In that situation, you may not be able to actually earn more for your time than you could save. That's not a situation you want to be in. If you are in that situation, try to start new businesses in your spare time, which you better have. Otherwise, it's a pretty challenging equation. Start new businesses, and with those new businesses, you set up an arrangement where you are earning enough money per every hour you invest into it, meaning time you're spent selling new items, trying to connect with new clients, all that stuff. The payback for your time has to be worth it. That it's no longer worthwhile for you to waste your time online shopping at the discount store where there's a 1 hour line to check out, instead of paying a little more to go to a normal priced store where the lines are short. Okay, that's just one random example. Now back to the apartment that I said in the beginning of this video. $20,000 a year is approximately the difference between living in the least expensive option and the most posh option within Queens, New York, where rents are extraordinarily high. So for the roughly same size apartment, you'd pay approximately $1,500 a month more for the good one over the cheap one. Now, why is that $1,500 a month so significant? That sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people, but it's not really when you calculate how much time you spend living in the chunky one. You have a walk-up, first of all. You are climbing the stairs all the time with objects. When you have movers to move in and to move out, they're going to charge you more for that walk-up. Number one. So right off the bat, you lose. Number two, you're parking your car on the street and you're spending your time looking for parking every day. In a fancy apartment, there's usually parking in the building and you just have your own parking spot. Number three, when you get a package in the mail, where are they leaving that package for you? If you are in those walk-up apartments, there's no doorman. We are going to having to go to the post office every time you want to mail a package, and when you receive a package, sometimes it ends up back at the post office. I don't know why they do that. So maybe it's a New York thing. It's terrible, but that's the way it is. You have a building, you have a doorman. They take your packages as they arrive, and if you have an outbound package, as long as it's got prepaid shipping, you leave it with the doorman, and they when the UPS guy or FedEx guy comes, they'll take it from you. You save time with that. Most modern apartments have a dishwasher in. Stop wasting time washing dishes. Most modern apartments that are on the high end of the scale will also have a washer and dryer in the apartment. Laundry. Don't waste your time doing laundry when you can pay a little bit better living. Now, mind you, there's also the emotional factors here. Living somewhere nice makes you feel good, and then it pumps you up to make more money. You want to make more money in this world, okay? You want to be inspired to do that. You can't do that if you're miserable. This new world situation with the lockdown brought all that to light. I live, thank God, somewhere nice because I take this advice I give to heart. If I lived in a dump, I would have been in a terrible mental situation because you're stuck indoors for months on end. This is the way it works. You invest in a good living situation because it saves you time, and time should be worth more than the money you spend. If it's not, then you have to fix that first in order to, sorry, there's a guy making an illegal U-turn in front of me. If that's not your situation, you have to fix that first. Do not go and take this advice as an excuse to be living beyond your means. That's not what I'm suggesting. Don't go blowing money on $1 million mansion because I said so. That's not a good use. But do not keep wasting your time. Figure out ways that you are pulling in enough income. Diversify what you do if you're not already pulling in enough income. And then stop spending time on things that you can throw money at the problem to fix. Now, other things is sometimes objects get beyond their practical use, even if they're still useful. I used to own a Cadillac. Okay, that car, man, oh, I love driving that car. For the 5 minutes that it worked, it was constantly problems in that car. Now, here's the problem with this arrangement. I bought that car when it was almost new. It had 20,000 miles or something, which is like 30,000 kilometers, and it was like 2 years old or something, straight off of someone else's lease. I paid 50% of the original value, which is great when you're figuring it's a practically new car that was in mint condition. The problem was I got tied up with the depreciation. Cadillacs depreciate like a rock sinking down the water, okay? The money was lost so quickly in depreciation that I didn't want to give up the car because I couldn't recover the funds back. Therefore, I held on to it longer than I should have because it was such a money pit of repairs, that car, that I love driving it, by the way. So there was that aspect, but it was such a money pit of repairs, I ended up spending more time going back and forth to get it repaired than the value that the car had. Meaning, had I just accepted the loss, okay, 50% of what was the new price is what I paid, and it dropped to near zero, believe it or not. That was one heck of a depreciation. Even if I would have just accepted that financial loss and said, you know what, I'm gonna just take the loss, but I'm not gonna spend my time going back and forth to repair this thing. It's a lost cause. It really was a lemon, that car. So that's one of the aspects, okay? You have to know when to throw in the towel and when to accept financial loss because your time is being eaten up. That's another aspect. Now, the last part of this equation is Stop wasting your time. Really, there's so many things people do that are just utter wastes of time that don't give you pleasure. I'm not talking about things that are pleasurable, like human interactions one to another, that, you know, you spend time walking a long walk on the beach with your loved one. I'm not talking about that at all. That's great. God bless you. Enjoy life. I'm talking about the things that are an utter waste of time. Number one, people who watch hours of television or movies or play hours of video games all day long. If your source of income is involved with video game, you're a video game developer, you sell a product for video game players, such as like an add-on, all that's fine. If that's your career, that's fine. If it's not, if you don't make money from it, in some cases some people pay a lot of money for the add-ons, stop doing it. It's an utter waste of time. When I see people on the subway and they're playing with their telephones like this and they're playing some video game, I think to myself, my God, they could spend that half an hour or 1 hour commute each day doing something productive. You can read a book that is something that is going to open your mind and teach you something. If it's a self-help book, you can learn a language through recordings and stuff like this. You can literally learn a language during your commute. You have so much free time, you're not doing anything else. Now, obviously, some people need the time to unwind. Unwinding is fine. Find something you enjoy doing that's productive. Don't waste your time away. Okay, another thing, and this is probably a more controversial one, but most drugs bring a person down, and they reduce productivity in one way or another, either just by lack of motivation, which a lot of them cause, or by actually sedating a person to the point where they can't operate. Don't do drugs. Alcohol, same story. If it's abused, if someone drinks enough alcohol that they're getting the next morning they're having trouble waking up because they got a hangover, again, you're wasting your time. That time you don't get back. Time is the most valuable resource. The most wealthiest people in the world cannot spend money to get back their time, but they can spend money to save a little bit of time. Okay, with the time that's passed, nobody in this world, whether it be Bill Gates or any other billionaire, they cannot pay to get their time back. Don't waste the time that you're given on this planet doing things that you don't need to do. The idea here is, the more you can figure out the financial value of your time, the more you can justify spending to save that time. It's an interesting equation when you break over the point where the money you make per hour of effort is greater than the money you save per hour of running around to catch that sale somewhere. I have known people who have tried to save money by being cheap with heating and air conditioning, and they get these like fans and these floor heaters and stuff like this instead of a proper heating and air conditioning system. Then they are miserable all the time when they're at home and the temperatures reach an extreme in either direction. They're either freezing cold or boiling hot, and that kills their productivity, potentially impacts their health, although that's questionable. But they are just not happy over just the lack of an air conditioning and a heating system that's proper. How much do these things cost? Depends on the size of your apartment or house, of course. But it's not going to be more than $1,000 to $2,000 in the most extreme case if you have a big house, in which case you're not worried about the cost of your heating and air conditioning. Most people's normal size homes, it's in the hundreds, it's not even thousands of dollars. To get a proper air conditioning and a proper heating, I mean, don't be cheap like that. I mean, that's really, to sit there with fans and floor heaters and then you're shivering and you're boiling and you can't operate that way. You can't be productive. Cheap pays double. Don't do that. You want to avoid things that are going to slow you down in life. That's the goal, at least the goal of being hyper productive, okay? Another one is like eating too much. When you overeat, you end up exhausted. Most people. I don't know about everyone's digestive systems, but I certainly do. If I overeat, that's it. I need a nap. That's it. I'm done. You want to stay in shape. That's another thing, you know? Being strong helps you have more stamina and stay awake all day long. If you go to the gym, you end up with more energy from the time you spend. So if you spend half an hour at the gym each day, you end up being able to be productive for more than that hour extra per day. So that's like the game. And as I mentioned before, if you live in one of these fancy condominium apartment buildings, most of them today, most of the modern ones have a gym right in the building, and usually they're not even extra money. They're free. They're included in your rent. So you save money on your gym, on going to the gym, just by living in one of these joints. Now, staying healthy is another aspect, but it's also a matter of not getting sick, because when a person gets sick, then it kills the productivity. You have to take a time out just to recover, or if you work through it, then you're miserable when you do it. So the goal is not to get sick. Obviously, every human being gets sick sometimes, but you want to minimize that by taking all the precautions within your human power to make sure that doesn't happen, that you rarely get sick because you're eating healthy, you're staying fit, you're not doing the things that make people sick in this world, which there are a lot of things. You want to kind of keep yourself as healthy as possible to maximize the productivity in your life. Now, obviously, some people are born with health conditions. That's a different problem. That's unfortunately your challenge in this world, and there's not much you could do beyond whatever it is that you do to take care of it. But for the majority of the world that's born roughly approximately healthy, you got to stay in shape and you got to eat the right. Also, food that goes past its expiration date and you're not sure if it's good anymore, throw the damn thing out. Do not save money by eating old food. God, Lord. I've seen a lot of people do that. You know, the food gets old and you're kind of like, it's still good. No, if it makes you sick, it's not good. Okay, fine. If it's just a date on the thing and the food's fine, it's different. But if you're not sure, throw it out. You are not a human garbage can. Sorry, honking at people in New York. You are not a human garbage can, okay? If the food is questionable, I missed the light because the guy, look at that, every other car went. Oh, you can't see it in the screen. Anyway, every car went except me. Anyhow, you're not a human garbage can, so make sure you throw out food that's old. It's important. It's really important to keep your health. Don't do stupid stuff. Live somewhere that supports your motivation and drive to succeed and makes you feel like you really want to make more money in this world, and that it encourages you, and find ways to actually make money. Because if you don't do that, then you got only half the equation. Do not go blow the money first. First make the money while you're running yourself to the bone time-wise, then start implementing these actions to increase the efficiency of your time, moving somewhere that's worth that saves you time or whatnot. All right, now this is all fine and dandy. Please God, don't just listen to me and do the same things you're doing, okay? I'm hoping that I'm gonna influence you to make a change for the better. Please do it, and you will increase the productivity in your life. You'll feel better, you'll enjoy life more, which is another characteristic. You're living somewhere nice, you enjoy life, you know, things could be good. You're not taking public transit, you got a vehicle if you need one, if you're living somewhere that needs a vehicle. If you're living in a big city, then you're near a subway or a bus, not living in the boondocks where you have to take, an hour just to go anywhere. This is it, man. Live life to the fullest, because you only got one life to live. If you like this video, if you don't like this video, either way, share it, please. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace out.
Yeah!